Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, RFK Refugees podcast. Ted here, John here, off-season edition. Even though the MLS season has not ended yet, still an off-season edition.
It's ended to me.
I'm going to, yes. it's over for us. John and I did text beforehand. If you're watching the live show, we did coordinate wearing a Wolfsburg jersey because Kevin Paredes got his first, I think his first Bundesliga start.
I believe that's correct.
I think that's correct. So congrats to him. I believe it was not in a winning effort. I have to go back and look what the title dropped. Nothing major. What's that?
I think it was 2-2.
That was 2-2. Okay.
So I think
nothing major for him. Unfortunately, he didn't really get a chance to make a mark in this game. We've got some other former alumni for DC that certainly made some noise. We'll get into that in a little bit. But first, John, my friend, how was your weekend?
it was good. I hope I did a Patreon show on Friday, so I hope that was tided some folks over since they hadn't heard from us in a whole 13 days or whatever it was before then. So my weekend was pretty good. I've been enjoying the weird 85, 83 degree fake summer, although it's over right now. If you're outside right now, it just ended. So winter has now begun if you're in the Northern Virginia area. I hope you had fun. Hope you liked it. What about you, Ted?
Yeah, it was a weird 80 degree. I refereed soccer on that weather, and it was very strange to be like in late October and it'd be like 80 degrees and sunny. So very, very strange weather we have here. But it's gonna get cold. It's gonna get chilly. I believe we'll probably have some frost. I think I finally saw like 25 degree weather coming. And we got the time change, so it's gonna get darker after this weekend. So it should be fun. But I did okay weekend. Caught a little of the F1 race in Mexico. Not going to talk F1. This is not an F1 podcast.
We got enough questions, so we don't have to. So thank you to our listeners.
Yeah, John, the suffer through John. We might get producer Brian to jump into the conversation. Well, let's get into it. Let's start. I wanted to start today. I know John had opened up with some MLS topics, and I said, you know what? Let's open up with some DC topics, and I said, you know what? Let's give some thoughts and some about the world around MLS, because there's been a lot of news. First of all, congratulations to Mr. Lionel Messi on his Ballon d'Or victory. So MLS gets the claim that we have the best player in the world. That's how that works, right?
League of choice. Don Garber was not wrong.
It's. I'm trying to like come up with an analogy for it. I don't think I can do that right now. But first, I wanted to talk a little bit. Obviously, the latest sort of expansion news came about was that San Diego FC revealed their new logo to worldwide appeal. Everybody was talking about how much they loved it.
Everyone already got they're like making bootleg shirts with the logo because they love it so much. They're like, I gotta have this now.
Yes, their colors will be blue and chrome. Which the only thing I could think about chrome is that SpongeBob episode where like Squidward travels into the future and everything's chrome, and it's like someone watched that episode and said, "Hey, that would be a good color for a soccer team. Everything is chrome in the future."
It made me think of Mad Max Fury Road, where they would spray their mouth with chrome paint. That's what I thought of.
You know, if San Diego FC fans adopt that as kind of like, you know, they have like
cool.
chrome.
That would be really cool, actually.
That actually would be really cool. But yeah, no, the logos. I feel like the worst part about the logo, I feel like the logo might have been somewhat okay, if not uninspired, if they just left the little like color trim around the side. It just feels like they went, oh shoot, the Wave have like a color. Let's just throw some color around the edges and call it a day. But to go from, I think some of the two most creative logos in soccer, where you have the San Diego Wave and you have the San Diego Loyal, to kind of go down to this generic San Diego. Can we get back to some creativity with our soccer names? Not every team has to be FC. It's bad out there, folks. And this comes from a team whose name is United. I know, but it's just
but
bad.
we were United first, so we're allowed to be. We can't be derivative because we were first.
And again, I will always contend the idea was to unite DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So there was we're going to call ourselves United to give ourselves a little bit of a European flavor, but we're also going to, also make sure we still feel like it represents our area. And they won championships with it. You win championships, people really stop caring about what your name is. So Success breeds, and maybe that logo will become awesome. And in retrospect, if San Diego FC win a championship, not likely though.
No,
We also have this thing called the MLS Playoffs. What are the MLS Cup playoffs drafts? We don't know because we are DC United fans and we do not get to enjoy it. But
I also don't know because I don't know when it's on, and I don't know where I can watch. I know where I can watch it. I think I just have to always have Apple TV on at any given time because a game could appear. I think that's what I've learned.
FOMOB is my friend. I won't say I've got Orlando, Nashville up right now. I won't give you any live play-by-play this because by the time you listen to it, it'll be over. We've also got we won't be going in depth on every game. I don't think that's really our mantra here. I just want to talk a little bit. So first of all, I think there are two aspects I want to talk about. First of is the new first round format. I don't know if we've really broken this down on the show, but just want to give some of what are your thoughts about the format? Do you like it? Do you hate it?
I think my real problem with it is not knowing when the hell the games are, and I only recently understood that like every game goes to any game that's a draw goes to PKs, right? So it's just you have to win. It's 3 games, you have to win 2 of them. That's the end, right?
Yeah, essentially, it's basically the 90s are back.
That part is okay to me. That part I don't mind as much. I think that's kind of funny. It is weird that you play an entire season with like traditional, globally accepted rules in the playoffs, where I'm like, hey, let's just make it weird. Let's do goalie wars. Let's just throw something weird in here. But other than that, I think the thing that annoys me is the thing that annoys you.
Yeah, well, and to sort of talk, so I genuinely think MLS wanted to do a group stage. Like they wanted to do 4 teams in a group stage. They were talking about this forever, and then they were just like, nope, never mind, we can't do it. We're just going to do this three round series thing. I think it does give. I will say a lot of people loved the single round knockout. I'll say it was probably, of the formats, it was probably one of the better ones they came up with. I will say that it just went by way too quickly. It was like it was done and over with. And I do think maybe you should have to play more than like 3 games to win a championship if you're going to go out there and do that. You have a whole regular season and you build up to that and you earn that bye, but playoffs I think should still be a challenge. I think there is such a thing as too long of a playoffs. Like if we talk about NHL, NBA, the playoffs are insanely too long, and how like it's almost like a marathon. It's almost like a whole new season that you have to go through just to get to the Stanley Cup Finals. So I think there's some criticism about it being too short and too long. The best of 3 is fine. It gives some incentive to the teams. I think what you're seeing out of it is home teams are playing a little bit more free because they know, hey, if we drop this game, yes, it stinks, but this isn't like the end for us. I think you're seeing the away teams try to play a little tight, try to sort of get the game to a draw, maybe try to win it in PKs. We'll see. I feel like everybody's jumping on the best of 3 and hating on it before. And then I love someone tweeted out, oh man, it's really awful. All the home teams are winning. So why do we even have this 3-game format? And then Kansas City comes out and like literally pops St. Louis in the mouth after they just literally talked about on their social media about how Kansas City doesn't know what a supporter section is, which was kind of funny. But
who said that?
You didn't see that? The social media, I think the St. Louis whatever social media, whether it was TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever, I don't know, but they posted a video that was like, Kansas City, this is what a real supporter section looks like. And I'm like, that is like some real sass that like you don't need to be really dropping right now, particularly when you're first in the league and you don't know how good SKC support is. Anyway, I think the format's fine.
And wait a couple years. Like granted they had a hot year, but other teams have also started hot and then have trailed off for a couple of years. So like pump the brakes.
Yeah.
Pump the brakes.
The schedule's terrible. This whole like Saturday, couple games on Saturday, couple games on Sunday. We kind of spread them through the week. Teams are getting like 10-day breaks. I'm trying to think when like I think the international break is like coming up. I think it's like either the next week or the week after. I'll have to go back and look. So there's going to be an enforced break. There's not a whole lot you can do about that. But I think you can why are the games not all on? There's a Saturday game, a Saturday mid-afternoon game, Saturday early evening game, and then maybe 2 Saturday games in the evening. and then just repeat the schedule on Sunday. You've got 8 games you have to show for the first round. 4-4 Saturday, Sunday. We're done. Then you can go to next week, next Saturday. Maybe it's too late at that point. I don't know. Even though they're clearly branching this out far anyway, and then wrap it up next Wednesday for the if necessary third games, and then it's tight. It's done. There's a consistency. There's a flow to it. I really, it's a mess. This whole schedule is just like an absolute mess for the playoffs. I guess it gives the players more rest. We always talk about too. Well, then we criticize the teams for or MLS from playing too many games and on short rest. So I don't know.
Let's just whip through the results that are final from so far, and just give a 5-word thought about it. Philadelphia 3-1 over New England. Expected.
Kind of expected, yeah. I think Philly are a good team, even though apparently now just dropping from Tom Bogart that Kai Wagner has been accused of using a racial slur by Bobby Wood during the game during a heated exchange. So,
which, if you have been following his situation, he is at the end of his contract and is looking to sign a new deal in MLS or go abroad, and that's ill-timed from him to do that. Also, in the playoff, just not what you want in any sort of the word. Just not great. So I still think Philly has no problem closing this out. New England kind of has been stumbling. They made it in the playoffs, obviously, but kind of stumbling. LAFC 5, Vancouver 2 in Vancouver. Was that no? Is that
no?
It
was in LA. That was in LA. Yeah, it
was in expected. LA. That's a lot of goals. Good thing goal differential doesn't matter, or total goals doesn't matter either.
I mean, that's maybe the one criticism of this format is I think in that game, that's the game I kind of watched a little closely. LA was in Vancouver. We're going, back and forth, nip and tuck. I think LA made it 3-2, and then Vancouver started pushing because they were like, well, we got to go get the goal. If we lose by 3 goals, who cares? We just reset for the next match. And that is maybe a valid, I guess, minor criticism of this is that, you're seeing a lot of these lopsided score lines because teams then push for it. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if you're already going to lose, you're going to lose. And, you push for that next goal. So,
you know who they needed? They needed Christian Dahome. That's who Vancouver needed. That would have changed this calculus. Next one is my favorite one. Houston 2, RSL 1.
Yeah, that was maybe one of the closest games. This Orlando Nashville game is 1-0. Is probably going to be maybe a little bit closer. We'll see how that one ends. Still haven't had a penalty shootout yet. I think I'll be curious to see how it goes. Obviously, the number 2 games are going to be interesting.
We did have a penalty shootout in the play-in game for SKC, resulting in some very interesting penalties. If you go back and watch those highlights. Sure.
I will say the one thing I like about this format is I like that there's no extra time. It's just 90 minutes. Let's just get it over in PKs. I used to hate that, and now I'm like, with this format, I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Let's get it move keep it moving.
Agree. So Ben Olsen looking good. Cincinnati 3, Red Bull 0.
Yes, Mr. Luciano Acosta with an absolute 50-yard banger. Probably the goal of the playoffs already.
Yep. SKC 4, St. Louis 1. The Wild. So I think I saw this as a Jason Anderson stat. It's the first team in the playoff history to score 3 goals outside of the 18-yard box in a game. It was just Golasso City all over the place. I feel like his name Berkey, right? The goalie for St. Louis, Roman Berkey, had little to do with 3 of those goals. It was just pick those out. What are you gonna do? Yeah. He punched one to the top of the 18, which was maybe not great, but
and to me that game is more of a somewhat of a vindication. I feel like if they had the old format and that game ends with KC moving on, the criticisms will be then what's the point of the regular season? St. Louis is the best team, and then they get bounced in the first round. So I think it does allow some teams to kind of pick themselves back up and to maybe make some more interesting conclusions than kind of the one and done. So maybe one day in the near distant future, we will get to experience the wonders of the best of 3 and feel like we're in 96 again.
They'll change the playoff format 7 more times before we get back here. So I
will not be surprised at all if they just immediately jump to a to a group stage. And I think there's a way you can make a group stage work. My idea would be do what they did for Leagues Cup, which is a draw. You go to PKs, you get an extra point if you win the PK shootout. I think that could keep
NHL.
Because the biggest criticism would be the dead rubber games, and I think that would be a way to keep dead rubber games from happening. So,
all right. Well, that is all the games that have happened so far. We'll do this every 2 weeks. We'll probably be still in the first round in the end of 2 weeks, so we'll keep talking about those games. Well, now let's get to DC United stuff. There's a little bit. Granted, obviously, we talked in the last Monday show about sort of all the players who were on their way out. We had a lot of people ask us to talk about the players who are still going to remain. We got time to do that. There were a lot of questions about Benteke. I feel like in the intervening 2 weeks, we'll get into that. But there are players that are still playing games somehow by international standards. So let's talk about that. The U.S. under-19 team is having basically Jackson Hopkins and Ted Kutipietro are playing all the games. It appears they are either starting or in substitute for every game, and we advanced due to a Ted Kutipietro winner at the death over Honduras.
Yes. So apparently, I watched the Brazil game thanks to someone mercilessly posting it on YouTube. I for the life of me cannot understand. It appears nobody has the rights in the United States. There's no way to stream it or watch it. Fubo supposedly has it, but you can't watch these games anywhere. It's the Pan American Games for those who are not concerned. And in the United States, qualified by virtue of qualifying for the Olympics. So basically, you qualify for the Olympics, you get thrown into this tournament. Ted Kutipietro in there. This is more of a U22 team. I think the women are more of a U19 team. This is supposedly kind of like a B side for the Olympics. So Ted Kutipietro being 21, that's why he's able to sort of be there. Jackson Hopkins, I think maybe has looked. I thought he looked a little better in the Brazil game than Ted Kutipietro, but U.S. was also really struggling. I think they were still trying to figure themselves out a little bit. This is also a team that hasn't really played together. So you're going to struggle if you're not a team that's familiar with each other. And Brazil looked like they were maybe a little more. They knew a little bit more about what they wanted to be in that game. But to the U.S.'s credit, they've grown into this tournament. So
who's on that Brazilian team that we might care about?
Gabriel Pirani, who is still listed as a DC United player, but we're not sure what his contract situation is. There's been maybe some stat investigation from Matthew Doyle as to whether DC should keep him. Maybe it's causing the question whether I think DC should keep him. But
he's the only one. If you poll fans, it is like, I don't want to say 100%, but it's like 98% are like, keep him. Which is easy to say. I feel like they have to be. The margins are so fine for this team that you better be sure about paying a transfer fee. You got to really be sure, and not just because I think a lot of people were saying like he had moments, he could figure it out, and he could become X. But I mean, you got to really be sure right now. It's a tough one.
I mean, the one benefit of signing him is that he would not occupy that designated player spot. He would occupy that U22 spot. That is sort of the one. He almost seems kind of built for this, where it's like you can go sign this guy, you can bring him in, you can spend whatever you want.
All it costs you is money.
And all he doesn't even take up a DP spot, so you can still go out and get that, that number 10 or that real defined creator, that real expensive creator. So remains to be seen. We still don't have a GM. We're still the team.
We'll get into that.
We'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, Ted Kutipietro doing really well, making some noise. I would hope that maybe this is maybe used as kind of a trial to see who they might want to maybe sneak into the Olympic team. He really hasn't gotten a run out with the Olympic team, so I think this is maybe a good opportunity for him to maybe get a spot in that tournament. He apparently, I think he had an assist on one of the goals and had a secondary assist on the other goal against Colombia. So he's played really, really well along with the game-winning goal against Honduras. So. They played Chile, I believe, on Wednesday. I believe is when that game is.
And you can watch that via Periscope and calling somebody on the phone who is in South America. More DC United news. I talked about both of these on the Friday show. Fred Brian apparently was under the impression that Wayne Rooney was going to bring him to Birmingham, and he did not. And he was on a podcast with Glenn Crooks this week. and implied that he was like, "Oh, well, that sucked. Didn't expect that." Diego Restrepo, the goalkeeper coach, also left the club this week. So it is literally right now the cheese stands alone. It is Fred Briant. I think he's sort of waiting to see where the wind blows and if they want to have any continuity from the previous staff. He just did get his A license this month. So we'll see. The whole it's entirely possible they just clear the whole slate, start entirely new. But I think it would make sense to have somebody who knows where things are, somebody who knows how to get to Leesburg.
Yeah, and somebody who might have a relationship already built with some of the players and sort of maintaining that. There's a reason. Chad Ashton stayed all those years,
right?
Even after, is because you needed somebody who knew, hey, this guy tends to act like this. This is his personality, and
you needed the vibes guy.
Yeah, I hope he stays. I think I would want him to stay. I think it was kind of surprising to me, the exodus under Rooney, and then also not surprising. By the way, Wayne Rooney, man, doing really well at Birmingham. Birmingham are charging
Killing
up the table, and
fans are happy about it. No one is yelling at him anywhere. He's not already getting frustrated in press conferences saying he's tired of talking about it. So it's good stuff.
It is. I will admit, and this could completely turn it around. This could completely change. It is a little refreshing to have a coach leave and think, I have greener pastures, I'll be fine, and then watch it kind of blow up in their face. And particularly after a team, and the situation of Birmingham is, for me, is fascinating because he talked all about, like, you want to go to DC, I'm going to be smart, I'm going to be very, very like pragmatic about the decisions I make. And he literally jumps into a team that was doing fine. Like I think they were like unbeaten in 6, but they fired their manager, and then they just kind of expect Wayne Rooney to come in and everybody be like, oh, it's Wayne Rooney, of course everything will be fine. Not recognizing that, that can still have a massive impact, particularly if you are a player who's said, look, we're doing fine. Why are we getting rid of the coach? Like, this is ridiculous. And then he wants to come in and do his own thing. I don't know. I haven't watched Birmingham, but it just seems like the situation he entered, like, I don't know if I was like looking for my next move, I would have looked at that as like a situation I would want to enter.
So. Yeah, no, I don't think so. The two other notes that I also talked about on Friday: Christian Fletcher has scored 7 goals for Swansea on under 21s, which is great. Hopefully he has a opportunity in front of him when he comes back.
Yeah, I believe. So I looked at, by the way, just quick caveat, I think they played again today, and I don't believe I saw him on the roster. So maybe that loan has ended and he is returning back. So
he does need I guess, he's got some time. I think the MLS comes back in training camp in February.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound right? And then the last bit of news that came out this previous week that's not really news so much, but Donovan Pine's agent was very communicative to Steve Goff, saying, we've got offers in Belgium, we've got offers in the championship. We understand that the club doesn't have an ability to talk to us right now because they don't have a manager or GM, but Donovan Pines is looking. So we talked about sort of what does that mean for this club, talking about he made $200,000 last year. He's due a raise. You've got a center back. Derek Williams' exodus has not been confirmed by the club, but he is, that's what we all deduced. So I don't know. I feel like if you could, I think, and the club has said they would like to keep him publicly. So it's very hard. The team is paralyzed about roster decisions right now. Dave Casper is still sort of making some nominal decisions at the moment. But I think they don't want to commit large scale decision making until they have some people in the door.
Yeah. And maybe a little bit of a caveat. I have heard some rumblings. This is completely, I'm going to preface this is secondhand information that I'm
RFK Refugees exclusive.
I'm not going to drop. I know both the person who gave me the info, obviously, and I trust that what he says is true. I also know the person who said that who gave the information to him. I know that person. That person is very well connected in soccer circles around U.S. soccer and everything like that. So I certainly believe this person when they say they has said that number one, they said he has stated that Dave Casper's out, that it's over for him. He will be off to the side, but he's not really in charge of the roster anymore. And I think honestly, you're seeing that reflected in the decisions, that the fact that Andy his option has not been exercised, things have maybe they're still talking with players because I mean they do. I'm sorry, but I mean players can't just wait unless they got an option, which changes the whole situation. Players can't really wait until
Players' agents are calling the front
yeah,
office, and it's just going to
and,
voicemail, and it's
and
a
it's
full voicemail box.
yeah, and it's fair to the players. Like I mean, Dominic Pines is like, look, man, I got maybe I want to test the market, and if eventually it comes back and it's like, well, not really getting much offer, let's just take this offer from DC. He could still make that move, but he
Like
can't
your
just put his
salary
life
is
on hold and hope that wait until DC makes a decision on what's going to happen with him. So I mean, it's fair play to him, and I don't think if he has offers in Belgium, England, wherever he does, and they're legitimate and true, and he wants to go to it. I mean, I say same with Bill Hamid. I say go for it, man. Do it. But
they're going to say your salary is $198,000 now. Every week you shop, it goes down $1,000.
Yeah, but the said source, I forgot the said source says that there is he says a decision has been made on who the GM is, and that they will be taking over soon. Take that for what it will. Take that for what you will.
Speaking of, all right, let's get into the questions. Thank you again for submitting the questions to me because I told you that if we didn't get them, I was going to talk about green sauce and Ted was going to talk about F1. So,
well, we got to talk Bruce Arena, don't we?
Well, there's one of the questions addresses it, man.
Fair enough.
I'm trying to do transitions. Brendan Cartwright says reporting has identified McKay, Tall, Morera, an international candidate as finalists for the GM role. If you had to pick one, which are you going with, knowing full well you might not know much about any of them? Choose. I can tell you who I don't want.
Who?
International candidate.
Yeah.
Unless it's Dane Murphy, and then I'll take him just due to his meteoric rise.
I think we can. I mean, maybe they've talked to that said international candidate. I think we can maybe rule that one out at this point. I feel like you look at you look at McKay, Tall, Maria. They're all taking part. They all have teams right now taking part in the MLS Cup playoffs. I am if my secondhand source is correct and a decision has been made, I am willing to bet the teams are like, look, like you're still under contract with us. We'll release you, but you got to wait until however the season goes.
And it's so dumb because what does the GM do in the playoffs? Nothing. What is the assistant GM do in the playoffs?
I think
absolutely nothing.
I think it's just they don't want any news, anything dropping in the middle that might rattle. I mean, I think it's just right now, it's just like, we want no drama, no nothing, no big distraction. So
I think it's Morera. That's my guess. That's who I want. I think he has built something in Orlando. I think there's criticisms about the style of play in Columbus and Nashville as not really being exciting. Orlando, I don't know if they could be considered exciting either, but I think that from a standpoint of what they've built and the consistency that Orlando has built, that is what I would like.
Yeah, and I think Marrero is maybe the one. I think that he seemed like he was the top candidate. They've been talking with him for a while, particularly when Tom Bogart dropped that they had been denied an interview. I feel like that was almost maybe planted by DC to be like, let's see if maybe we can shake some trees a little bit. I wonder if Marrero knows that it was declined to talk to. Maybe Orlando City thought they could get a new contract, and he came back and said, excuse me, you guys didn't tell me that DC wanted to talk to me, or that I was still in the running here. I would like to speak to them, please. I'm not signing a contract without that. So they kind of went, okay.
He's got a date. He's got a date first.
That's purely speculation, but that's kind of what this felt like.
All right, so, next.
Go ahead.
Speaking of, Dylan Owen Dylan, at Dylan Owen Dylan on Twitter, says, who will be the coach and why will it be Bruce Arena? Spicy meatball. I don't think it will be Bruce Arena.
No.
And I don't know who it will be. I think that part, it will be very funny to me if it's a certain coach you have been calling for, who is now coaching in Orlando City, who may follow his GM up here. That would be the funniest thing to me. What are your thoughts? I had a little bit of opportunity to talk about Bruce Arena on Friday. So what are your general thoughts about who it might be and why it won't be Bruce Arena?
So again, I know Bruce Arena is obviously his current situation. Personally, I think if I am DC, I am a new GM, I'm like, the last thing I want to do if I'm trying to stake a claim is invite one of the biggest personalities as coach, biggest American soccer personalities.
Former GM over and over and over again too.
A guy who's taken off the coach role and sporting direct role and now just wants to be the coach. I feel like that was maybe more, I think he probably knows he won't get the job. I feel like it was more like let me put my name out there to say, hey, I'm still ready to coach. Obviously, I fully believe that. I did not buy like, oh, I'm going to spend time with my family, the statement. I think also as a GM, unless you have a full understanding of what happened in New England, why are you running back into a situation, that made itself that basically is almost the same as what happened with Taxi, which something was said. This one was actually apparently justified and validated. Like it was confirmed that yes, he said it, and he was suspended for it. Has to write a letter to the league to get back in. Jumping through all of that, creating that massive distraction when we're assuming it's one of these three options as your first GM role. I don't think you're going to want to touch that, and I'm not sure I want. I like Bruce Arena as a coach is a legend, and he is a guy who's definitely a player's coach. He can motivate players. I feel like that almost covers almost all of potential deficiencies, and one of which is the dude doesn't like data. In fact, that was apparently, if you read some of the articles coming out about New England, that was a major split point, is that some of the people in the Revs organization wanted to utilize data more. And Bruce Arena was like, get that junk out of there. I know this game better than you punk ass data scientists.
He's like Dusty Baker. You won't get that, but he's like Dusty Baker. He's an old school guy that isn't listening to. I think also too, if this club was a perennial first round loser with a roster that was very, very close and just took like just a steady hand and someone experienced that could maybe get them over the hump, and you were like looking at a 2-year project, okay, that at least is more of a fit for purpose. Right now, you're almost doing a studs to the studs rebuild here. It's odd fit. I mean, kind of that's what happened in New England, but I think also he was 3 years younger. I think that club was in a different place.
That club was starting at ground zero. They were awful. I mean, and he built that thing into something respectable. Won the Supporters Shield,
and Robert Kraft opened his wallet for like the first time since Taylor Twellman was there. So that also is part of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it won't be him.
Yeah, I don't believe so, and I just don't believe that he will want to surrender so much control over the roster. Maybe he realizes he needs to do that. Like he's not going to get a supporter directing role and coach role like that full control he had at New England anymore. But I don't know. I feel like
I just saw a clip of Kai Wagner of the New England Philly game. I didn't watch it, so I didn't know what he said that. Bobby would instantly reacted and started pushing him around. He did that S. So not great.
Not great.
Next up, we've got RJ Olson says, once a GM and head coach are brought on board, what 3 things would you want DC United to do next? And does not have to be player related. That's a good question.
Good question.
What things would they need to do next? I think I'll start. I think having the GM be a open and accountable and media centered individual. So like, I want to be able to talk to this person. I want to be able to have access to them to understand their thinking about whatever the things are. I think the other thing they should have to do once they get a manager and they get a GM is talk about a 5-year plan or a 3-year plan or whatever it is, and then sort of put it out there so that people can hold them accountable to whether or not the moves that they are making and the decisions they're making are actually in lockstep with that, or if they're just freelancing again. I don't have a third one. I need your third one. You got a third one?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that was my first thing, was going to be like media. There should be an interview with Stephen Goff. There should be an interview with Pablo Maurer. There should be open and honest communication immediately. If you want to come to our humble podcast, we will absolutely accept you. I'm not making that as a deal breaker.
It's a deal breaker. It's for me. It's a deal breaker.
But yeah, open and honest. Honestly, then communicate that plan. And honestly, the third thing would be get a coach in place that you feel can execute that plan. Whether that is some of the names that have been thrown about. Hugo Perez has been a name that's thrown about. That would be, like, I think from an El Salvador, fan base perspective, would be certainly like something that would be interesting. But I think really make that right hire and bring somebody in that can really change this game. I would be very curious. I mean, you look at a hire like Bruce Arena. I think Bruce Arena we need a guy in here we need a big personality because we've got, star players like Click and Benteke, and we need to get the most out of them. And there's like one coach on the market that can do that, and that's Bruce Arena. That would be, but again, that would sort of indicate again short-sighted thinking that I personally don't want to see from this team anymore. If Benteke is terrible, it's fine as long as there's a general idea about a plan. And I think honestly, I don't think Benteke is such a huge personality that he's difficult to manage.
Doesn't seem like it anyway.
Doesn't seem like
also, I'd like to see them hire more scouts.
Yeah.
That'd be another thing I would like to
get some more scouts.
Football
manager gives you 5 you can hire. So come on, man. So that's 100% realistic. It's all there.
minimum standards. RJ also said, who would you say was United's most valuable player outside of Benteke? I think that's Ted Kudu-Pietro, even injured and not playing that much.
Yeah, Ted Kudu-Pietro. Maybe a small shout out to either maybe Click or Russell Knaus, sort of the unsung hero. I
think those are 3 good choices.
Yeah. So, but Ted Kudu-Pietro, I think from a perspective of this guy is our future. I want to know when if his option's been exercised yet. That should be done by now, or that contract.
They should the limited amount of DC United good news that they're gonna be able to have this offseason. They should do they should blow it out. They should have like a hype video and just like him re-signing his contract where he makes like $50,000 more a year because MLS rules dictate where the control of what that option looks like. They should just really, really blow it out, make it fancy. Have an event at the press club and invite local luminaries. They used to do that, by the way. I worked at the press club when they signed Marcelo Gallardo, and they had an event at the press club, like a press conference thing. I was like, my world's coming together. I have to go downstairs, or I have to go upstairs and be a part of this. That's all the we answered that. That's it. That's all the questions. Make sure you folks get questions in to any, there's lots of ways. You can get it in Discord. You can get it to us in Twitter. You can get it to us in Threads, which is where I spent a lot of my time.
Blue Sky, if you're one of the lucky
Blue Sky, if you're Ted and one of Ted's guys. Very briefly, let's talk Spirit. I think the thing we didn't get to talk about was Mark Parsons being fired, which Ted was right. Ted said. Right. You go back, listen to the shows. Ted was saying it is unconscionable that this happened with this team, and I think he needs to be fired. And I was like, no, it's a 3-year plan. He talked about it all season long. Listen, if there's one thing you should not do, I think if I can say anything about me and soccer, is don't trust John Hoffman about the viability of Spirit coaches, because I am over 3. I don't trust me at all. I think the ones that are fired for cause seem like they're kind of okay sometimes. I think the ones that are going to be here a long time because they have a pretty long track record of success in the league and internationally, I think they're going to be given some time. But no, I'm wrong. So Ted, you get the crown. You get the smart guy crown on this one.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think I think this is a critical moment for the team, and I think it does show that there is pressure certainly in this job. I also feel like the NWSL showed MLS, look, you can have a playoff system that makes sense for the number of teams that get in, and it can still be exciting, kind of right down to the wire. They'll argue, well, that's because you guys have 12 teams, and I might be like fair, but anyway. But the nature, I think the talent on this team this is not a team that is a rebuilding project. This is a team that has 5, 6 players, 6, 7 international players. Several of them are going to be, on that World Cup roster for the United States team. Potentially, pushing up, the same. Rodman looked really good against, at least in the second part of the Colombia game. And I think this is a team too where there's starting to become a realization that, maybe the old guard needs to sort of shift off to the background, and they need to let some of the new younger, fresher talent. So I think that opens up, a player like Ashley Sanchez to maybe make some noise as well. Maybe opens up to some of the younger players like Chloe Ricketts to make a run. So this is a team that should have done a lot better. They were flying at the first part of the year, and I think this is personally, I think this is the right call. Now you have to go get the next hire in there. I felt the whole hire of Mark Parsons, maybe it got a little bit of criticism, but maybe didn't get enough. So I hope there's been some lessons learned.
Yeah,
About
listen to the fans that hate somebody, I guess, from the start, and they did. People were still mad that basically they thought that he ran Emily Sonnet out on a rail. I don't think that actually was true, and also I don't think it really would have made a difference in how things went. And now we got an extra first round draft pick next year. I did say this on Friday. Mark Krikorian has to start being held accountable here too. Yeah. He's now been here long enough. So if this is a bad draft or the team gets off to a bad start and none of those players from last year's draft start to feature on a regular basis, Michelle Kang has another person to fire.
Well, we do know that they're doing more searching because their advertisement for their head coaching job showed up on LinkedIn. This is kind of interesting.
Not on easy apply though, so you'd have to actually put your resume in. It may not be worth it for you. Depends.
No, but to Mike Krikorian, I mean, I think he does deserve criticism, particularly because when he was asked about the hire of Mike Parsons, did you guys interview a wide range of candidates? And it was no, he just kind of said we like Mark, we're going to go get Mark Parsons. That deserves a lot of criticism in my mind because you had a coach that you had a chance to do a coaching search. You had several months to do it, and you basically didn't do it. So now I think there has to be a actual search for a coach, find the right hire, bring the right hire in, and a player that can go out and start winning games. I think this is not a team. This should not be a rebuilding project team. This should be maximizing the time they have with the insane talent that they have, and going out and trying to win soccer games and to compete for the NWSL championship, which by the way got an amazing trophy redesign. Thank goodness.
By the way, I did that one. So you did the predicting Mark Parsons. The day before it got announced, said that the Angel City FC ownership group is on the hook for paying for this because they have so many owners they can just pass around a hat and everybody puts $5 in and they get a new trophy. And then it comes out the next day that Alexis Ohanian is the one who did this with Tiffany's and got this thing redone day before. So I did that. So that was me. You picked the manager being fired. I manifested a trophy redesign. So we're 1-1.
And thank goodness too. I think that's also one of the interesting news. It might have been Jason Anderson was talking about this, and this is kind of your next step of a league that's knows it's gonna kind of be around for the next at least the next few years. That they kind of went with flyby, the kind of the weird, really bad
the cookie cutter, basically. Flat paperweight.
Flat trophy that did not look anything good. It's kind of here's a recognition that your league's kind of around to stay. So here's a nicer trophy. Also, just want to add to anyone engaging in the sports equinox discussions. Stop engaging with people who.
What are you talking about?
You know about this?
No.
Is
this only on Blue Sky?
No, this is on Twitter. There's discussion on social. The people talk about the sports equinox when it's NHL, NBA, MLB, and NFL all playing on the same day, and then everybody talks about, and then all people talk about how much MLS is not included in this. People who leave out MLS and then try to justify it, they are not having a disingenuous conversation. You will never get them to agree that MLS should be included in this list because they will say it has not been. And they believe the whole Big Four team sports is made up. It doesn't exist. It's also very male centric and leaves out very popular leagues right now, like the NWSL, like the WNBA. And it is designed to, I think, by sports bros to seem superior, like they support the Big Four sports. So don't engage with those people. Stop engaging with them. Anyway, Stab has felt I needed to drop that. Also, Stab up for Defender of the Year. So
I got to vote for her.
Is that a vote that we have?
I got to vote for her as a NWSL media member. I got to vote for Sam Staub as the Defender of the Year. I also voted for Paige Mateer as in the top 3 for the Rookie of the Year, but she did not make the cut. So sorry, Paige. Did my best. That was my only bit of advocacy. Everything else was straight down the line. So
I think if that was a first half of the season, I think she makes it. I think she did kind of tail off a little bit, where I am not necessarily surprised. And again, she plays a role too. I'm sorry, attacking
not a glory position.
Attacking players get a lot of the benefit of this role. So yeah.
Yep. All right, everybody. That was our first off-season, full off-season edition show. First, it was
full off-season edition.
Pretty decent. There will be no Friday show this week, but there will be one next week. So if you're a Patreon subscriber at the $5 tier or more, you will not hear my dulcet tones until next Friday.
And stay tuned. I'm gonna have some more off-season content coming your way. Probably get back into doing the uh, football manager streams once that releases, and I can add the USL leagues and make it a little bit more realistic. So we'll still.
And last reminder: should you be still listening to this show, make sure that you're following the RFK Refugees podcast feed, because in a few weeks, or I don't know, maybe probably be in the next season, honestly, that'll be the only place that our podcast will be shooting. So make sure you're subscribed to that one. That's it.
Yep, that's it. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will catch you guys next week. Vamos.
Vamos.